Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Architect and CEO John Riggio joining us live today, based out of New Jersey, working throughout the tri-state on so many amazing residential commercial projects, let alone, these new houses, the renovations, the additions he does. He's also a pro tennis player, also an author. He wears many hats, and we're excited to have him back today. How are you doing?
Hi, Jill. How's everything?
Everything's great. It's a great week. School's out next week for the kids, so it's like that summer feel, hustle and bustle. I'm excited for it.
Yes. The weather's getting much better over here. So today, a lot of times I talk about my architect profession. I'll talk about a mix of things today. I think there was some things I've been thinking about as far as my book and going through all the different people in the book. One of them was interesting stories that was happening between my college, NYIT, and also
Our college. Yeah.
yes, that's correct. Yes, and then also during my tennis playing, and I was just remembering because as I went through chronological history from my book, and I was getting to some things heading over all the way into like 1998, and one of them was one of my friends from college. And she was also one of the ice skaters from Dorothy Hamill. So she had the same idea with the career on ice, and she was also going to school. I think I talked about some of this with Steve. She was originally an architect major her first year, but then she switched over to communications, and she ended up working for a television company. So she was a friend of mine, and around 1998, I had her and her mother. They both came down to the tennis center, and they were starting to sort of watch this whole thing with the tennis playing and everything, and they sort of liked it. It was pretty good. And one interesting thing that was happening was some interesting things and like some controversy that was going on.
Hey, baby.
And I think we both went to the same college, and but the college was really trying to do the good things there. And I think that's why I was attending there. They sort of like that. But there was also some interesting things that were occurring. There were strange things that were occurring every once in a while. And I think as far as since I was talking about my friend in college, one of them was there was a very interesting thing that happened. During school, there was one female on the college that for some reason someone had come over, a male came over and grabbed her and was walking with her all the way down the parking lot. And just by chance, my car was parked where they were. I don't know why. It was just a coincidence. I just ended up following them down there. I was walking to my car after class. And it turns out when I noticed them there was something strange going on. The female wasn't really playing around with this other male. It turns out she was really getting kidnapped. So I told security right away that was driving past. They went and they solved the whole problem with them.
Wow.
And now I have no idea what happened. I did not call the school to follow up what happened. I have no idea what the truth was. But it turns out my friend Gina, she told me that she's friends with her. And it turns out she really was getting kidnapped. I couldn't believe it. And she was really made it definite that was what was happening there.
Oh my gosh.
I really did something good to help her out. She was very emotional about it, and that I was able to stop that whole thing. And it turns like, unfortunately, like with some other stories I told, that same person who did that crime against the female student, he ended up coming back to the school again. and he did not make it to do something to her. Luckily,
Oh,
security was able to get him. Just by chance, I was there in the afternoon in the courtyard there, and they were able to stop him again. And that incident, I didn't see anything happen again over that, but that was one interesting thing. Uh, but overall, the school and my college experience was pretty good. We were doing pretty good things, and I think talking to the dean Julio San Jose
oh my
was
gosh, you
dean
remember
of,
his name? Uh-huh.
and yes, he gave me the gold award, and I went to his office. I think he ended up getting embroiled into on his own problem because he had to leave 2 weeks early before graduation. And that caused a big stir in the school. And what happened was there was one teacher that they made him the acting dean for 2 weeks, and it made his everyone's life go crazy for a minute. For some reason, in the 2 weeks' time, they had him sign all of the graduation certificates. He took all the awards and tried to give it to other people that were his friends. And from talking to some people there, I was told that he wasn't even eligible to become the dean. He only taught one class, and they have a requirement to teach 3 classes. So what happened with this uh, professor of the college? I was there, and the dean San Jose, he called the police department, and the new acting dean, they weren't able to do anything right away. He had to get investigated. And which was a little damper for the dean because he was hoping they could do something right away about him. Because in the 2 weeks' time, he left to go to another college outside the U.S. to work as the dean there. And then the new acting dean, who was named Jonathan Fry, he was able to do all kinds of crazy things in 2 weeks' time. And what happened was they eventually did do something about the this acting dean, and it was in the newspaper. He eventually apologized to everyone, saying he wasn't sure who he was causing problems for, and but the school did do all kinds of things. I was told also the school administration ended up backing up the dean San Jose and this acting dean and the people who he was playing with the awards and everything, they were ended up getting arrested and going to prison. They're really very serious. So I think the school overall was able to solve the problem, but this event did take place and it caused some problems. It was sort of a little sad for that to happen. I think Dean San Jose was really smart. He was aware of everything. I remember talking to him and going through all the different requirements for the gold award that I was involved with school activities, received a student service award and things like that. And then this whole occurrence happening with the acting dean sort of did put a big problem on it. I always think about like you see the movies like Animal House where someone does like a crazy thing there. I mean, it was really horrible. And but I think over the next couple of years, the problem did get solved, but it couldn't get solved right away. So that was one thing that happened in the school in my college, and so I was happy they were able to do the whole thing. And I think one interesting thing reading the newspaper about the acting dean stating that he wasn't sure who he was doing the wrong things against was a little sad because I think it was pretty obvious, and that's what was happening there. So I think that's one thing that was happening, and so I think that story was really sort of pressing story. I think I didn't really say about what was happening yet, and I was hoping they could even issue all new certificates after what happening, I think for 2 weeks' time, I think the certificate could have gone to the original dean. The acting dean was just sort of went wild in a short time, and they end up having to stop him, which was really strange. So I think that's one thing that was happening at school. So I think that was a couple interesting things that happened, and so I think I was also discussing about that friend of mine. So she was at the time aware of all those different things, and those were some things that were happening in the school, and then also was going on the tennis court. There was some interesting things going on, and so I think that's one thing. And I was just looking at the conclusion of my book here, and I think I could share this with you.
Sure.
Let me just share this here.
Sure.
Let's go into Google Chrome. Okay. So this is the conclusions of the book. What I did at the conclusions of the book, I was talking about some interesting things. One of them was some things comparing the two things of, say, going to college, doing career, and then also doing the pro tennis. And I discussed this in the conclusion. I put in here some interesting things about home life and different things of what I discussed about people supporting me in tennis, coming to my house, seeing how everything is, and also then talking about the switching from my home life to the pro tennis, and show here just some things about my tennis playing and some things what I had talked about previously with the tennis centers, television, and things like that. And that also people should be interested in watching some stories about my tennis that it could interest them, that is educational. And I go through this on the conclusions. So on this, I just pointed out a few different things that maybe a reader had already put them together, but if they didn't, I just put them together anyway, just so you get an idea of how you could piece them together. And so there's all kinds of different things in here in the conclusion for that reason. Another thing I was also stating in here is some just interesting things. If someone who's reading as a young reader, I just showed about how I was always an honest player, didn't get involved with cheating, and I was lucky my sponsors didn't get involved with cheating. Um, I pretty much was doing the same thing with my education too. Pretty much straightforward. I think going to college, um, wasn't playing around with any strange things. And for instance, that fraternity really liked me, liked my personality, made me a star member. And I think they were pretty much saying the same kind of things, that they were really an honest group of people. And so that is one thing that was carrying through also with my college education. And like those incidents I told you that I always was trying to stop any problem. And I also was pretty happy that, say, the dean and the college were sort of thinking the same way. They didn't just let those problems, the corruption, get through. They were able to stop them eventually. I think all those problems, of course, it took an effect on everybody. I think it probably did cause a little problem. I think as far as the story with the dean, that he was there for many years and him leaving and then giving him a big problem at the end was sort of a little disappointing. That is, I think I was just thinking about that now after I was just thinking about some things about one of my girlfriends from college and things like that. So was going through this here with the conclusions, and just going through here about why I'm working as an architect. I put it in the book here. And I just explained the present time of really doing the audio shows and explain how I was able to blend everything together at this time, which is pretty happy. I sort of liked that idea. And I think that was one thing also my friend who has had that same career with Dorothy Hamill. And I think she always desired to keep all those things together, that it wasn't a secret that she was doing ice skating, doing those ice capades and things like that. So that's one thing I had discussed in here, and I think that is something that's pretty good. And let's see what I have in here. And this is just the ending of some of the statistics and history of here. So I think that was pretty good. I think going through the this here, this is the returning to tennis onward. This is the previous chapter here, chapter 12. And this here I show that the end of after 1999, and just showing how I returned to tennis playing presently, showing some different instructions and things like that. And regaining my playing ability and things like that. I think tennis years ago when I was younger was really so complicated. I think if you look at any young kid doing something, you see that's really like amazing if they did something very good at sports or any other thing. And I was thinking back about my tennis, and I'm still remembering all the different things. For instance, all the different grips of the racket. I think when you start off learning tennis, I was teaching just to hold the grip continental style. And but now that I'm remembering more and more about my tennis, it turns out the my tennis grips were changing constantly. I was using so many different grips, one at the baseline, one in between the baseline and the net, one at the net, then depends on what kind of playing I want to make on the court. I would adjust them. There were so many different types of grips. And I think this page right here, it shows here the grips. I show here the different continental grips, Eastern, semi-Western, Western, and the backhand grips of the continental and the Eastern grip. Sometimes the continental is called a hammer grip, just as you hold it like a hammer. And those type of grips. There are even more little variations in those grips too, as far as a pro player. But they're all within these set of grips. And I think just recently, even this, I was still remembering more things. I looked at one of those rackets I had, and I see that the grip was really the leather piece that's on the handle was made by Bosworth. And I was saying, who is Bosworth? As I don't remember, I never heard of them before. It turns out I did talk to Bosworth too. I think Bosworth was one of these companies at the end when we were searching around for people to give me new pro stock rackets and record my stringing tensions and things like that. This was one of the companies that I did talk to was Bosworth. And I think they were referred to me by one of my sponsors. So that racket that I bought recently, it has the Bosworth grip on it. So that is really good. That was one of the registered pro stock rackets that has the Bosworth grip, and that was just one interesting thing. I was just displaying the racket a while ago, but I really didn't remember everything about it. But it turns out that company is one pro company that keeps records of the rackets, the names on the rackets, the tension of the strings. And So I think things like that, I'm still remembering, and that was pretty interesting that that was coming about just recently. So I was talking about those things. And then this here, just as my age, I think coming back to tennis regularly at the age of 39, it was just sort of like a coincidence because the end date of playing the adult pro tennis is 36 years old, and 39 is just after that point. So even though I just thought that maybe that's why there was an opening again to play tennis, that the age of 36 had passed. There's nothing I could do about it, but I thought that was very interesting. Overall, I'm still happy that I could return back to playing some tennis and was able to find an opening. So that was pretty good. And I just described that experience coming back at 39, meeting someone who was able to teach me some tennis again. And when I came back playing tennis at 39, I started off like I was really just like a small child, holding the grip continental, swinging the racket very simply, and slowly after the years now, I'm 56 years old now, I'm still remembering a lot of the grips and all the different terminologies, the different companies, the grip companies, things like that. It was very interesting. And so I think that was really one. So I think the overall lesson of that story is that the tennis playing, the pro tennis playing that I was involved was really very thick with technical information. It had all different names and numbers, age limitations, and that was something that I was really just remembering all those things. Nothing was even written down. I never even took a notebook to write anything down. I just remembered all of it, and that is sort of part of the game of tennis, was really to remember everything. Only the administrative coach really writes all those things down on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
They have the written record, sponsors have the written records, things like that. But usually the common player, you're not supposed to keep any written record. They don't like you to keep any memorabilia either. I think the word was also just you're supposed to only have in your possession one player trading card of yourself. You're not, so if you have a bunch of them, for myself, I know they make different playing cards with different names. I was only supposed to have one of them is really all that's allowed. So that's another interesting fact of what's going on with the tennis players,
Mm-hmm.
that they're not really collecting everything. And so I think that old racket that I bought with
I
Bosworth, I think I made the transition of
remember, yeah.
keeping that like I'm keeping uh memorabilia, sport memorabilia, and I started playing with it a couple weeks ago. So it was good. It's a very nice racket. It's pretty good. It's like any racket you pick up in the store. So I started to use that racket, and I sort of like that leather grip. That's from years ago when I was young
Yeah.
and had those leather grip
Love it. New
rackets.
picture.
Wasn't
Yep.
playing with the synthetic things, the over grip. You could start to get into too much playing with the synthetic over grips and everything. And just going with the basic leather racket is sort of bringing back old memories where you sort of just sweat up the leather grip and then it dries and you don't have to maintain anything. It just sits there. It's very easy to use. I'd always recommend that if people really get into tennis is really just to go with a leather grip and you don't have to bother playing with the grips too much.
Got it.
And
Interesting.
so this here and I think also in this book, there's a few interesting facts that I didn't put in here. Sometimes when I was writing the book, I didn't say, but I was starting to get a little bit caught up with too much of what the problems were starting to do. And I still have a lot more stories of what I was doing, not really thinking about any problems. I think one of them was that I never turned down a pro match.
Yeah.
Because if you turn down a pro match, what happens is your ranking can go down one point. So if you are ranked, say, number 8, you would get lowered down to number 9. not every player can battle back and move up a ranking point. So I really just never turned down a pro match. I think some people turned down a pro match as far as strategy, particularly when they got to me. They didn't want to lose to me, and then it becomes a problem with them. So sometimes they would not play against me. They go play somewhere else. And if I'm not in the tournament, maybe they can win the tournament. But I think as far as the matches they set up, a lot of times they like people to play each other if they're setting up a pro match. And the reason is because of things like with the rankings, has to do with playing to see if you could go past the player. And then I think I described some events of playing something that they were calling a tennis series. And in fact, I think I had described on one of the shows about Brad DeWitt and myself playing a series, and the series with him and ended up going down that I was really his tennis instructor. There were too many improprieties on his side that they caught him on, and but this was near the end before this player left the U.S. And I think one highlight of this whole controversy of playing that series, I won the series, was my lawyer, Miss Hillary Clinton. She did come down in person and watch at least one of those matches, and I won the match when she was there. So she wasn't just someone I was communicating with as far as the...
You were friends. You got friends in high places. I always hear about this, and you're so modest about it.
She really was happy to come down and see that whole thing take place in person and see me win the match.
Love her.
And so that was one interesting thing. I didn't talk about that for a long time. I had to remember all these little points. There was so many different things going on, so many facts filled with information and things like that. And there's so many things, even in that series, that has started to bring about a lot of different things happening, and my lawyer coming down, watching in person, and things like that. And but I was able to really get through that. I was able to win the series, and it worked out really good. And I think the whole thing with all those little problems also had to get worked out. So I think my sponsors and my lawyer, my support, were really thinking the same way. They were all doing things when we're not playing around and cheating and doing anything wrong. And anything that was really obviously wrong, they stopped it. The other side had to get penalized and things like that. So that is one interesting thing that was happening.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I'm sorry.
Yes.
We're out of time. We're 28 and a half minutes. How can we reach you, John Riggio?
So you can go to my webpage. It's www.johnriggio.com. There's for my architecture work. And if you're interested in tennis, you just go onto Facebook, onto John Riggio Pro Tennis Player, and all my information is there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day. And to all of our listeners,
thanks a lot, Jill.
Stay tuned. What?
Thank you.
Thank you, as always.
You're
Another
welcome.
name. I thought Helmsley impressed me, then Hillary Clinton, then, the list of people you know. All right, impressive. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes. and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.